Hi, I'm here with Andreas Tziolas, current project leader for Icarus Interstellar. What do you think has been achieved to date thus far by the project?
One of our grand achievements is collecting the team of 35 of the world's best interstellar engineers to date. It's just really putting together this kind of society of people that have been dissociated. They've all been pursuing the effort to construct and achieve interstellar flight. Some of them through their own professional capacities, and some of them semi-professionally. Really putting a place where these people can come together and work united is the organizational aspect of the program is really one of the major achievements of Icarus Interstellar right now. And really one of the things that separates us from a lot of other groups is that Icarus Interstellar is a volunteer project, so people can.
And that's really interesting, and you're right, it's completely different.
Yes, it's something that you don't find very often. We're often asked, who's funding us, who's funding this effort? And the answer is that we're funding it through our own enthusiasm. That's really what's funding it, because the amount of work that's gone into the project to date is over 25,000 man-hours.
That's so many hours.
If you try to budget something like that, we've expended many millions of dollars worth of equivalent research that these people would have done. Some of the research you can't get NASA to do, in this direction.
So how did you get your team to do it?
It's a unique mix of inspiring people and finding the right type of people to work on a project that really is something that we have to achieve. That mankind needs to achieve.
Yeah.
It's an effort that needs to start now. If you keep on waiting for technology to catch up when you're going to have an interstellar spacecraft and you're going to start exploring space, for instance, then that means that this kind of technology is just going to appear out of somewhere.
Instead, you guys have really taken reins to make the technology, like almost pushing the technology to catch up to you.
Absolutely. The key is to do it realistically. Don't assume that the technology is being created, will be created sometime into the future. Look at what's going on right now. Design a spacecraft so that you have a blueprint of what you want, and then characterize each and every component, and then go around to industry, go around to educational facilities and say, and organizations and say, these are the technologies that we need to develop, which will benefit interstellar flight, but they also benefit mankind's telecommunication, material science, propulsion, everything else.
So, this role is a really big role that you're holding. How do you think that differs from a lot of conventional leadership roles that people have? I mean, you're really dealing with something very big here, and like you said, really outside the box.
Yeah, it's a large group, and we're growing. We grow at a rate of almost 50%.
50% per year. Okay.
Yeah, so the group doubles per year. We started with 14 members. Now almost a year and 6 months into, we have 35 members. The way you deal with it is it's a difficult mix. It's not a standard management team. You really have to understand that the people are donating their time.
So does that make you go about it differently from like a boss leadership perspective? I mean, you're still you need people to get stuff done.
Yes.
But the time's donated.
Yes, but the time is donated. People really understand what's at stake. People really understand what's at stake. And when we have a large team, and in a sense, everybody's expecting everyone else to finish their work before you can progress. So if you're waiting for a piece of data from somebody, it's really quite necessary that you finish your work.
So you don't want to be that person lagging off, obviously.
You don't want to be that person. And sometimes, sometimes you wear a hat where you may be a little bit more strict.
Yeah.
Certainly. But most of the cases, we're a very closely knit group. We understand where each other comes from. There isn't a strong separation between the management team and the rest of the workforce. Indeed, when someone really excels in contribution to the team, there's multiple channels where they're promoted into what we call the core research team. Once someone is in the core research team, they have as many really rights for directing the design, the technology and the design, as anyone else on the project. So if you prove that you can work, you can influence the direction of the design. This in itself is a huge responsibility for people. So then it creates a situation where everybody motivates themselves. And all during the same time, you get new members coming in, and they're really usually given a mentor.
Yeah. So it's almost like you're taking the best people out of the general public and pulling them into this project, because if you can prove yourself, you can work your way up in the project and really contribute in a strong way.
Yes, that's right. We have people from NASA. We have people from the European Space Agency. We have people that are incredibly gifted, people that weren't given that opportunity because perhaps they don't look good on resume, you know.
Gotcha.
But sometimes those people are those people that haven't been trained in a certain way of thinking. That's a national lab, an organization. Not that that's a problem, because you need a structure. But sometimes those unique ideas will come from a place you least expect it. One sentence has one crazy idea has driven 6 months of research with wonderful results in our project.
That's really neat. And you're also heading up the idea for this virtual Icarus. Can you kind of give us an overview on that? That's really outside of the box, I should say.
Yeah, virtual Icarus is my pet name for virtual Icarus is Vicarus, because
That's awesome.
We mentioned it many times. Vicarus is once we complete the study for the Icarus Starship, we're going to have a blueprint, an end-to-end blueprint for how to build a spacecraft. Now, we probably don't have the resources to actually go up into space and start building this thing. It'll be massive. There'll be certain technologies that need to be created, but that doesn't mean that you can't simulate this. Okay. So the idea of Icarus is to make a computer simulation of the Icarus spacecraft, and then launch it computationally. Online. And the idea is, again, that this virtual Icarus will be on a 100-year or a 50-year, or however fast we get it to go, on a real-time mission to Alpha Centauri, where the computers that are calculating its trajectories are constantly making it fail. So we need to try to make sure that the spacecraft will first of all survive, and then once it gets there, say if we can make the simulation run for 40 years and it arrives at Alpha Centauri, for instance, we believe that we'll have enough telemetry from the target star to actually program in what it's going to find, and we see how it reacts.
And is this something that's going to be available online for the general public? Like, can people chime in their thoughts on this?
Yes. It's something that will be a tool for discovery and a tool for investigation. And we also believe that once we have a program for unifying all of these components, that people will be able to go in and add, additions to it. So if there's a concept for a modification to the engine, you can write your own. You can add that as a module to the spacecraft and launch it on your computer. You may not have to. Maybe you don't want to launch it in real time because you want to see you don't want to wait for 40 years to see the results, right?
Yeah.
The computer can accelerate it. Maybe the details of the travel aren't the same, but the person can see what improvement they've made with their idea to the spacecraft. So everybody will be able to improve on the spacecraft.
So you'll take all those ideas and then put them into the actual project?
The ones that excel will show. So we're imagining a monitoring system where something like a competition, for instance, like people play massively multiplayer online role-playing games, right?
Oh man, people play a lot of those. I know all about that.
And the competition is really who's going to be the best,
Yeah.
who's going to reach the highest level. Well, what if the effort towards achieving the higher level is building a piece of technology, is contributing to science? How interesting would it be if some kid that's 16, 17 years old, who perhaps doesn't have the resources, but he's focused on this problem, He builds a device, he builds some kind of addition to this program that really makes an enormous addition. It's something that people will be able to celebrate.
And what about the educational stuff for the project? Are you guys really going out to educate the general public on things, or use this as an educational tool for kids? I mean, science was kind of a thing of 30 years ago, and now we're trying to bring it back. I mean, kids aren't as interested these days. What are you guys doing to, promote that?
Sure. we have there's two things that we're working on. One of them is we have a student training program as part of Project Icarus. So these are we call them student designers, and the student designers have a mentor who is one of the other people on the team, and the mentor is really their supervisor, and they work on research projects the same way that they would at the university. Now, the benefit of this is we get to design the next we get to educate the next generation of Icarus designers. So when these they're usually students that are at university or in high school. When they graduate, they get promoted, they become Icarus designers, they take on students of their own. It's just something that's an accelerated and very focused educational forum, specifically for interstellar engineering.
Anything for like younger kids, like elementary school? Do you guys have any plans to kind of incorporate that kind of thing?
Yeah, we do. We do have some plans. There's an author that is writing a book on interstellar travel that's aimed for people that is around under 10 years old, and she's done a really wonderful job in writing this very inspirational book. There's loads of pictures. You know, there's a lot of artwork that we've created, but it all describes the same principles. It's the same principles of science. They're just explained very, very simply. For instance, the Icarus has a pulsed fusion propulsion engine.
Yeah.
You know, you take hydrogen atoms and you fuse them together. Some people's brain may start melting, but if you tell the child that if you can get energy by putting together two hydrogen atoms, he understand that. It's not a problem for them to understand, and you'll get energy from it. You can build the whole description of. We're not just describing the spacecraft. It's more about the journey, of course.
And she's making the book right now.
And she's finished the book.
Oh, okay. Is it out? Can you buy it yet?
We're trying to find a forum to. It's written in Greek. She's a Greek author.
Oh, okay.
And she's translating it right now to English, and we're trying to find a publisher that will do it under a non-profit in a very nice, neat way.
So it's still underway, but hopefully sometime soon we'll see some educational things coming out from Project Icarus for kids, which is really neat. I mean, I remember all the space stuff when I was a kid. It'd be nice to see it incorporated back into, kids these days. So kind of the last question, what are your aspirations for the next year with the team? I mean, this is a big project. It's moving really fast. And you guys are almost under your own time restraint in order of the project as well.
Yeah, we are. That's a very good point. We're pretty hard on ourselves. We have to stick to schedules. Unless none of the work will get done. We try to keep our exposure at very high levels, where we visit many conferences around the world. If a month goes by and someone hasn't published a paper, there's virtual sort of little taps on the shoulder as we got to get going, because there's work to be done. A month going by without something produced is not part of our program. We're supposed to be working really hard on this.
So the overall aspiration is?
The overall aspiration for this year, is that we've really focused on organizing Icarus into the Project Icarus into an organization. So that's what Icarus Interstellar has turned into. Icarus Interstellar is a non-profit organization for which Project Icarus is the research committee for.
It's good that you said that, because I think a lot of people out there were probably curious what the difference was. So,
sure. Project Icarus was just a collection of people. We were sitting around a table and we decided that we really need to work on this. And work can be done in that way also. But in order to really inspire people, you need a certain type of organization. We need to understand how the project will survive for many, many years. And you can't really do that unless you have an organized team. So we've believed that a non-profit research organization was just the natural next step for Icarus, and it's paying off. I mean, we have an incredible media and outreach machine. We call it machine because it seems like a machine that's working by itself. We're